All right, back again with another review, and this is for Shawn Little. Thank you, Shawn, for the request. He wanted me to talk about and review the 1997 comedy Bean, starring Rowan Atkinson. And, the character of Bean had been around prior to this movie. I had heard about this movie, but never seen it before. I knew of Rowan Atkinson and, playing Johnny English later on and stuff like that. Being the voice of, Sazu and the Lion King and stuff. And I know there's quite a bit of people out there, that like this movie. I'm assuming that Sean likes the film too, and that's cool if you do. But from the minute this film started, I was getting aggravated. And look, I can appreciate slapstick. I'm a big fan of the Three Stooges. Big fan. In fact, I got like the first 4 or 5 volumes of the Three Stooges. So I can appreciate that type of humor and comedy. But this movie just kind of really pushed it too far for me, to the point of, just being aggravated, with each passing second throughout the movie. And, again, from the minute it started, I'm like, okay, this is the type of film it is. And look, I understand there's a lot of people out there that like this movie, so, I'm going to get flack here for this review. But I'm going to be honest. I mean, this just wasn't my type of comedy. Now, it's directed by Mel Smith, which unfortunately has passed away. He did a few stuff. The only thing that maybe I've heard about but haven't seen is Radioland Murders from 1994. But other than that, he didn't really do too much. Jumping to the cast here, Rowan Atkinson. He's a guy that I've seen here and there in certain movies. Even Scooby-Doo, which I didn't mention earlier. And again, I know a lot of people love the Bean character, but, to me, it just, throughout the movie, the way that he would act, being very bumbling and just fumbling around and making weird facials and gestures. In the opening of the film, he's shaving his face and he's shaving his tongue and, again, just making and doing some weird stuff here. And I know that's part of the shtick. I know that's part of the character, kind of being this fumbling and bumbling character and just making weird facials and stuff. And, maybe it's just the material. Maybe it's just I'm not a fan of this shtick. Rowan Atkinson, again, he's okay in other stuff. Even, like the Scooby-Doo movie from '02. Like, I don't mind him in that. He's tolerable. And, being the voice of Sazu, okay, in The Lion King, he's fine. But maybe this just isn't my cup of tea. And again, I can appreciate this type of humor that I just talked about the Three Stooges, being a big fan of that. In a supporting cast here, you got Peter McNichol from Ghostbusters 2. He's kind of the other lead here in the film where, he's kind of looking after Bean, kind of, keeping a watch on the Bean character. And Peter McNichol's a good actor. Pamela Reed, who's his wife, I think a lot of more people would know her from Kindergarten Cop. She played Arnold's partner in the film. Harris Yulin, he's the boss of Peter McNichol. And this guy you've seen before, believe it or not, he was the judge in Ghostbusters 2. He was in Scarface. Burt Reynolds is in here as a general, which apparently Burt Reynolds was a fan of the Bean character. So, I think that's partly why he was in this movie. He was casted. Larry Drake from Darkman and Dr. Giggles. He's in here for like 2 or 3 scenes. And that was cool to see Larry Drake. Chris Ellis, another recognizable actor. Andrew Lawrence, who's one of the kids of Peter McNichol in the film. So, The supporting cast, you got some recognizable faces there, with Peter McNichol and, Burt Reynolds and Larry Drake and Pamela Reed and stuff. If there's any minor positives that I can give this movie, the only one that I can think of is really, it's not a long film. It's like an hour and 29 minutes, but if you take away, let's say 5 or 6 minutes of credits, it's about an hour and 23-minute movie. So it's not that long of a movie. But there's just a lot of stuff here throughout the film that just aggravated me. And I'll say this again, I can appreciate comedy of this type, but I'm just not a fan of this character. I mean, just to kind of throw out some scenes here from the movie, and I've already mentioned about the weird facials and the gestures and the bumbling around of the character. Just to throw out certain scenes, there's one scene on a plane where he takes a bag, when you blow into a bag and you pop it to make that pop sound. Well, he had taken this bag from a kid on the plane, and to cheer him up, he blows into the bag and he pops it. Well, it was a vomit bag, and there was vomit that when he popped it, the vomit just goes everywhere. And we have another scene at the airport where he sees a couple of cops, and he's doing this number here with his fingers like a finger gun. And then soon enough, he's being pursued by, police officers in the airport just for doing this. And which is a stupid thing to do. Then you fast forward to, there's a scene in the bathroom where he accidentally wets himself in his crotch, and he has to dry himself off, and the hand blower is like on the wall, but it's up like 5 or 6 feet. So he's standing on top of something to dry his crotch, and he's like dry humping the air blower or the hand blower. And you fast forward later on where him and Peter McNichol, they have to make dinner, and it's either a chicken or a turkey, and they're trying to figure out how to cook it. And you just get some buffoonery here with the character where, he's stuffing the chicken or the turkey. I think it's a turkey, because he does put dressing in the turkey. So he's stuffing the turkey, and then the turkey ends up on his head. So Bean is walking around, with the turkey on his head and just, being an idiot. And then you kind of get to, I didn't even talk about the plot. And I got so away from, I went into the film here and I didn't even mention the plot. But, you go into later where, Peter McNichol, he works at this art gallery, and there's an expensive painting, and Bean, he sneezes on the painting, and he's trying to rub it off, and he ruins it. And then later on, he tries to, repair it, and he puts paint thinner on the canvas, and he ruins the painting even more. And then he tries to fix it again later, and that's when they have this, reveal, or unveil, I should say. And that's when you bring in Burt Reynolds' character. And then by the third act, the daughter of Peter McNichol, gets into an accident, and they're in the hospital. And by this point, I was just ready. I was so ready for this movie to end, and I was really tuning out. There was a couple of times where I skipped. And I know Richard Gant is in the film, from Rocky V. He's in here, which I forgot to mention. But there's this whole thing, too, in the third act where he gets shot and Bean saves his life. I can't really remember because, again, by this point in the film, I was just really tuning out, and I could not take this film anymore. And look, like I said at the beginning, for people out there, that like this movie and like the character, that is fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I would just say overall, while I can appreciate slapstick and other comedies and stuff like that, This movie for me just excessed in buffoonery too much for my liking. And overall, it was just not my kind of comedy. But that's it for my review of Bean. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.